We ready to start?
Okay.
Good morning, thanks for coming this morning. Financial Crime Squad detectives charged 3 men, including a service postal worker, an employee, for the theft of bank cards from the mail delivery service and on-sale of them to organised criminals. The strike force in charge of the investigation, Strike Force Ruby, which commenced on November of last year by the Financial Crime Squad State Crime Command. The investigation was focusing on the theft of those cards en route for delivery and then sold. Those cards were stolen from delivery points in the eastern suburbs. At the time of investigations commencing, $1.4 million worth of fraud had been identified. Investigations into this matter culminated into a number of search warrants, 5 in particular, and arrests on the morning of the 20th of August of this year, where detectives from the Financial Crime Squad, assisted by staff from Raptor Squad, executed those warrants in the Rockdale and Roselands areas. At those search warrants, police located and seized $14,000 worth of cash, an encrypted dedicated device, other electronic devices, stolen bank cards, a taser, luxury items including watches, handbags and jewellery. A 56-year-old man from Rockdale was arrested and taken to Cogra Police Station. He was spoken to by police and he was charged with 143 counts of deception-related offences, including the theft of mail and participating in a criminal group. A 35-year-old man also from Rockdale was arrested and taken to Cogra Police Station also. He was charged with 64 counts of fraud-related offences, participating in a criminal group, receiving stolen mail and being in possession of a prohibited drug. A third male, 27-year-old from Roselands, was also arrested that morning, taken to Campsie Police Station, where he was charged with 79 offences relating to fraud and deception and failing to comply with a digital evidence order direction.
What more can you tell us about these 3 men?
They are known to each other. They have an association from the time that we've been investigating them, and 2 of them were known to police prior to investigations commencing.
And was that the postie that was known to police as well?
I'm sorry?
Was the postie known to police?
Yes.
Can you take us through the time period in which you allege these bank cards were stolen? Like, how long was it going on for?
Well, initially the matter was reported to police via the financial institutions, so that stemmed from mid last year to the time that we commenced investigations in November, and that continued to the time that we arrested them.
How many victims do police believe have been affected?
We don't know exactly because they're customers of the financial institutions themselves, but there's several hundred that have been affected.
And how did that 56-year-old postman come to be in contact with those 2 other men?
It's unsure how he first met those individuals, but it's an association we've seen through our investigations that they meet very frequently and be in contact with each other.
Can you give us an idea of what criminal syndicates those 2 men were involved in?
Well, basically, the criminal syndicates are focusing on fraud and deception-related offences, obtaining of those cards and then perpetrating other frauds using those cards.
And tell us where this $1.4 million has gone.
Well, they've used the money for their own gains. Of course, we've talked about seizure of expensive items, clothing items, electronic items, and used for general day-to-day use of expenditure and costs.
The 2 men who were known to police, what were they known for?
Well, I can't really go much into that. They're known for different levels for investigations that come to police notice.
And those 2, the 35-year-old and 27-year-old, they didn't work together at any point, did they? They were working, I guess, for their own individual syndicates or entities.
They were all working for themselves.
Yeah. Okay.
What about, like, obviously we've interdicted at this point with the postal worker. How, like, do we see there's going to be more fraud? Obviously we're going to now go back through this, being their entire history, potentially working together.
Okay, so in 2 parts there is. So the first part, we are continuing working with the financial institutions who have reported the matters to us. We are working backwards. We've had to interdict now to stop the continued offending, and then we'll work backwards We expect the value of 1.4 million to increase dramatically as we detect more offences through frauds and linking those individuals to that. Additionally, Australia Post have been very cooperative with police, and they're doing their own internal investigations looking at any vulnerabilities within their system.
How are these cards activated?
Generally, they would contact, as you would do, you receive a card, you would contact the bank for activation.
And, I mean, you say you're working back. Are you talking years here potentially that this has gone on for?
Well, it may have gone for a number of years. We're not sure. We haven't traced that far back. But of course, it's a matter of being able to prove those offences with current transactions and evidence that we must be able to obtain to prove those types of offences. So I can't tell you how far back it'll go, but it'll at least cover for majority of last year.
Do you know how long he'd been an employee of Australia Post for?
I'm not sure exactly. That's probably a question best answered by Australia Post.
What about just maybe if people in that area think they had a bank card stolen, compromised, what they should do?
Okay, if you suspect that you may be a victim of a fraud where a card hasn't been delivered, you've been expected, I would firstly suggest you go and check your bank statements, look for any unusual transactions that you want to dispute. You then contact your financial institution, make a complaint with them for them to do their own inquiries, and then ultimately, if it is something that may be fraud related, whether related to this matter or another, then I strongly advise you then contact police and report the matter.
And I guess just more generally, like, how awful is this? These 1.4 million is a lot of money, and you said hundreds of people have been affected, and they could have been doing this for several years. So what's the message mainly to them, but just for you guys investigating, how awful is this?
Of course, it is traumatic to individuals. If you go to your bank account and there's a lot of transactions, it could be several $1,000s worth. Of course, it's traumatic for them. It's also a great loss to the banks because reimbursement and chasing those things. So it probably pays to be very vigilant. If you have credit cards, if you have any type of bank card, you should be checking that, at least monthly at the very least to see and identify any unusual transactions. That's the best way of trying to detect these things and stop it before it continues to be a problem for yourself, for those individuals.
And also for the privacy of these people, lots of their details have now been compromised. What can they do?
Well, again, they need to speak to their financial institutions in relation to that. It's more so their bank accounts and those cards. Of course, the banks have their own procedures, what they do about compromised cards and accounts, cancellations, restarting new accounts. But again, that's between the customer, those individuals who are victims, and with the financial institution they are banking with.
And those financial institutions have been pretty helpful with the investigation and with police and what we're doing.
That's correct. There's a number of financial institutions. We've had ongoing meetings with them. They've been very helpful, assisting with our inquiries. Of course, investigations like this don't get to a resolution where we can arrest individuals unless the police work very closely with those financial institutions. And again, Australia Post are very cooperative as well for their part of it. And so you have multiple agencies and government agencies working together to investigate these matters and to identify individuals, arrest and charge them. And at the end of the day, by removing that person from the postal service, we've cut the head off the snake. And so those type of offending for that individual and those syndicates will cease.
Thanks, Mum.
Thank you.
Thank you.